All right, everyone, get ready for a deep dive. Today, we're going to explore something that you've probably heard of, but maybe don't fully understand. We're talking about VirtualBox.
Oh, yeah. VirtualBox.
What is it?
Well,
How does it work?
Yeah.
And get this, it's actually connected to cloud computing.
yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Who would have thought? But we'll get to that later in the deep dive. This one's for you if you're the kind of person who's curious about, how developers actually test apps before they launch them into the cloud. Or maybe you just want to understand what all the buzz is about.
Right.
And let me tell you, things are going to get really interesting when we uncover how this little tool lets you run, say, Windows XP
Oh, wow.
on your brand new Mac.
Yeah.
It's almost like having a time machine for your computer.
That time machine analogy is a great way to think about it.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty clever.
It is.
But essentially, VirtualBox lets you create these contained environments, each with its own operating system, all within your computer.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like having, separate apartments
Oh, okay.
within the same building.
So it's like different sections in my computer. Like
Yeah.
I have separate apartments within the same building.
That's a great way to visualize it.
Okay.
And what makes this so useful is that each of these apartments, we'll call them,
Yeah.
or virtual machines, operates completely independently. So what you do in one won't affect the others.
Oh, okay.
So this is really valuable for developers who need to test their software in different environments.
Right.
System administrators,
Yeah.
maybe managing servers,
Okay.
or even just someone who wants to try out a new operating system without messing up their main computer.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I have to ask, how does it actually create these separate virtual computers?
Well, it's not magic,
Okay.
but it is pretty ingenious. There are three key components at play here.
Okay.
First, you have your host operating system, which is the main OS running on your computer.
Okay, so that's my main computer's OS.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Then there's the guest operating system, which is the OS running inside each virtual machine.
Okay, got it.
And then the real star of the show is the hypervisor.
The hypervisor. Okay, so my main computer's OS is like the landlord.
Right.
And each separate operating system I run is a tenant.
Precisely.
What about this hypervisor?
Well, the hypervisor is kind of like that super efficient building manager.
Okay.
It's a piece of software that manages all the communication and resources between the host OS
Mm-hmm.
and the guest OS. Think of it as a traffic cop, directing traffic between the virtual machines and your computer's hardware, making sure everything runs smoothly.
So when we talk about the hypervisor directing traffic, what are we really talking about here?
Yeah.
Is it actual data moving around?
It is. It's data moving around.
Oh, wow.
And the hypervisor manages things like how much processing power each virtual machine gets,
Okay.
how much memory they get, how they access your hard drive, and even their connection to the internet.
Wow.
So it ensures that each virtual machine gets what it needs without interfering with the others or your main operating system.
So basically it's like a bouncer, right? It's deciding
Yeah.
who gets to use what and making sure everybody's playing fair.
Exactly.
This is starting to make a lot more sense now. But now here's where things get really interesting for me.
Yeah.
I was going through this source material for this deep dive,
Okay.
and I had no idea that VirtualBox had such a strong connection to cloud computing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I mean, those massive data centers that handle everything from our photos to streaming services, what's the link?
That's where the aha moment comes in.
Okay.
Even though VirtualBox runs on your personal computer,
Yeah.
it uses the same core technology that powers those giant cloud providers. Virtualization.
Hold on, you're telling me the same principles behind running Windows XP on my Mac
Mm-hmm.
are also behind those massive data centers?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
It is. I need to hear more about this.
Well, it all comes down to the power of virtualization.
Okay.
Whether you're talking about a single computer
Mm-hmm.
or a network of thousands of servers,
Okay.
it's a game changer.
So what are the main similarities between running VirtualBox on my computer
Right.
and what's happening in the cloud? Give me the rundown.
Well, one of the biggest parallels is cost efficiency,
Okay.
just like splitting rent with roommates.
Okay.
Sharing resources through virtualization makes things much more affordable. You don't need a separate physical computer
Yeah.
for each operating system or application.
Makes a lot of sense. And I'm guessing that our friend, the hypervisor,
Yeah,
plays a big role in making sure everyone shares nicely in both scenarios.
absolutely. The hypervisor is it's crucial in both a single computer running VirtualBox
Okay.
and a vast cloud environment.
Right.
So it's constantly working
Yeah.
to dynamically allocate resources.
Ensuring that that no single virtual machine hogs all the bandwidth,
Mm-hmm.
all the processing power or storage.
Yeah.
It's all about maintaining a smooth and efficient operation.
Okay, and what about this idea of scalability?
Yeah.
Being able to easily add more resources
Yeah.
as you need them.
Right.
That seems like a major benefit in the cloud.
That is a huge benefit.
Yeah.
Think of it like needing more space
Okay,
in one of your virtual apartments.
right.
In the cloud, you can add more apartments or virtual machines
Okay,
as needed,
got it.
allowing businesses to handle anything from, sudden spikes in website traffic
Yeah.
to processing mass amounts of data. It's all about adapting
Mm-hmm.
to changing demands.
So essentially, even though VirtualBox is something that I can use on my own computer, understanding it gives me a peek behind the curtain of how the cloud works.
Exactly.
It's like having a miniature version of those massive data centers right on my desktop.
Yeah, it's like having a mini cloud right there for you to experiment with. You can try out different operating systems,
Yeah.
software setups,
Cool.
getting a hands-on understanding of things like resource allocation and virtualization.
All right, now we're talking. But before we move on,
Okay.
I have one more question.
Sure.
We've talked about how both VirtualBox and cloud providers use virtualization,
Right.
and we've touched on some of the key benefits
Yeah.
like cost efficiency and scalability.
Yeah.
But are there any downsides
Well,
or limitations to this approach?
that's a great question, and you're right.
Okay.
There are some trade-offs
Okay.
to consider. One thing to keep in mind is that virtualization does add a layer of complexity.
Oh, okay.
You have this software layer, the hypervisor, managing everything,
Right.
which means there's potential
Yeah.
for things to go wrong
Okay.
or for performance to be slightly slower compared to running an operating system directly on the hardware.
That makes sense. It's like having a middleman managing things,
Right.
which can sometimes lead to hiccups along the way.
Exactly. Another thing to consider is security.
Okay.
Because you have multiple operating systems running on the same physical hardware,
Right.
there's a potential for vulnerabilities
Okay.
if one virtual machine is compromised.
Got it.
So it's crucial to keep your hypervisor
Yeah.
and virtual machines updated with the latest security patches.
So while virtualization is powerful
Mm-hmm.
and flexible,
Yeah.
it also comes with some responsibilities.
Uh-huh.
We need to be aware of the potential downsides
Right.
and take steps to mitigate those risks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just like any technology, there are trade-offs.
Okay.
But understanding both the benefits and the limitations is crucial for making informed decisions about how and when to use virtualization, whether it's on your personal computer with VirtualBox
Right.
or in a large-scale cloud environment.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our VirtualBox deep dive.
Yeah, we have.
We've gone from what is VirtualBox to uncovering its surprising connection to the cloud,
Right.
and even touched on some potential downsides.
Uh-huh. Welcome back to our deep dive.
We are back and ready to jump back into VirtualBox.
That's right. Last time we talked about those virtual machines.
Yes.
The separate little operating system apartments.
The apartments. I like that.
But now let's shift gears a little bit and see how this simple tool is being used to bring the power of the cloud right to developers' laptops.
Okay. So let's say I'm a developer.
Yeah.
I'm working on this new app. I want to eventually launch it in the cloud.
Right.
How does VirtualBox fit into all of that? I mean, I don't have a massive data center in my basement.
What? And you don't need one. That's the
fun.
beauty of it.
Okay.
VirtualBox allows developers to create a virtual environment that mimics the actual cloud platform they're going to be using.
Okay.
So, for example, if they're building an app for Amazon Web Services,
Mm-hmm.
they can set up a virtual machine on their computer to run the exact same operating system and software that AWS uses.
So it's like a test kitchen for cloud apps.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you can, try out different ingredients,
Right.
different recipes before serving the final dish to the world.
It's like a dress rehearsal before the big opening night.
Exactly. VirtualBox gives developers a safe and isolated environment to experiment with different configurations, install necessary software, and test their code.
Right.
So that way they can make sure that their app runs smoothly before they release it into the wild world of the cloud.
And I'm guessing that saves them a lot of time.
Absolutely.
A lot of money in the long run.
It really streamlines the development process, reduces the risk of encountering any unexpected issues once that app goes live.
Oh, wow.
So developers can iterate quickly and efficiently without, constantly uploading their code to the cloud and waiting for feedback. Plus, it allows them to test their app on different operating systems,
Right.
even different versions of web browsers to make sure it's compatible with a wide range of users.
I never realized how crucial this virtualization thing is to the way we develop and use technology today.
Yeah, it really is everywhere.
It's like the invisible force behind so many things we just take for granted.
Think about all the online services we rely on every day.
Yeah.
Streaming platforms, social media, online shopping, they all rely on virtualization to scale their operations and handle those massive amounts of user traffic.
So it's like we're living in a virtual world
Right.
built on top of the physical one.
It really is.
And it's all thanks to those tireless hypervisors working behind the scenes,
Working hard.
like air traffic controllers.
Yeah, a lot of traffic.
Okay, so we've talked theory. Now I'm curious about some real-world examples.
Sure.
What are some really cool things happening in the tech world right now that wouldn't be possible without this VirtualBox cloud connection?
One area where it's having a huge impact is in cloud gaming.
Oh,
Have you ever streamed a game from a service like Google Stadia
Oh, yeah.
or Xbox Cloud Gaming?
Absolutely.
It's pretty awesome.
It's amazing.
Being able to play those graphically intense games without needing a super powerful computer.
yeah. I don't have a gaming PC, so it's nice to not have to buy one.
That seamless experience is all thanks to virtualization.
Yeah.
The game itself is actually running on a powerful server in the cloud,
Okay.
and you're essentially streaming the video output to your device.
So it's like I have a high-end gaming PC
It is.
just sitting at my fingertips.
At your fingertips.
I never fully understood how that worked, but it makes sense now.
Virtualization.
Are there any other examples that might surprise our listeners?
Well, virtualization is also revolutionizing the way businesses operate.
Okay.
For instance, companies are now able to set up virtual desktops in the cloud,
Okay.
allowing their employees to access their work from anywhere
Oh, wow.
with an internet connection.
So it's like I carry my entire work environment around in my pocket.
Exactly.
What are some of the benefits?
Well, it's a game changer for remote work and collaboration.
Okay.
It allows companies to be more flexible,
Right.
gives employees a lot more freedom, plus it enhances security
Oh, okay.
because all the data is stored and managed in the cloud rather than on individual devices.
So it seems like this virtualization technology is creating a whole new world of possibilities,
It really is.
both for individuals and businesses.
It is.
Incredible.
And the most exciting part is that we're only scratching the surface
Yeah.
of what's possible.
Right.
As virtualization technology continues to evolve, we can expect to see even more innovative applications in the years to come.
Okay, my head is spinning with all these incredible possibilities.
Yeah.
But before we get too carried away, I think it's time to take a little break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about how all of this can help us, the everyday users. Even if we're not building cloud apps or managing giant servers, stick around. The answer might surprise you. All right, and we are back. For this last part, I want to focus on something pretty important. How can understanding VirtualBox help us regular folks, even if we aren't building those cloud apps?
Right, yeah. You might be thinking, okay, VirtualBox sounds neat, but I'm not a developer, so how's this going to help me?
Exactly. We've talked a lot about how VirtualBox is kind of like a mirror of the tech used in data centers. But let's bring it down to earth a little. How can it be useful for us in our normal, everyday lives?
Well, one really practical way to use VirtualBox is as a learning tool.
Okay.
It's like a safe space where you can experiment, explore different operating systems and software.
Gotcha.
And there's no risk to your main computer.
So it's like a digital playground where I can try new things without actually messing anything up. I like that.
It's exactly. Think of it this way. Let's say you've always been curious about Linux,
Okay.
but you're not ready to install it on your computer.
Right.
With VirtualBox, you can create a virtual machine, install Linux on it,
Yeah.
play around with it as much as you like.
Oh, that's smart. It's like having a separate computer inside my computer
Right.
where I can test out different operating systems, software, or just play around with settings
Exactly. And you don't mess up your main setup.
without any consequences.
Exactly.
Very cool.
And this is so valuable for, learning new skills, maybe exploring different software options, or just satisfying your curiosity.
It's like having a lab to run experiments, but you don't blow anything up.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And the best part is VirtualBox is totally free.
Oh, nice.
and pretty easy to use.
Okay.
There's tons of resources available online,
Yeah.
tutorials and forums, so you can get help if you get stuck.
So I don't have to be a tech genius to use this thing.
Absolutely not. It might seem a bit intimidating, but with a little patience
Yeah.
and the right guidance, anyone can learn.
Okay. That's great to hear. So we've talked about VirtualBox for learning, experimenting.
Right.
Are there any other uses for everyday folks like us?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another great example is running older software that might not be compatible with your current operating system.
Right.
Remember our Time Machine?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I run into this problem before. I'll have a program. It could be for work or for a project,
Right.
but it just won't run on my new computer. They just don't understand each other.
Exactly. But with VirtualBox, you can create a virtual machine running an older operating system, like Windows XP or Windows 7.
Oh, okay.
And then you can install that old software. It's like you're creating a little pocket of the past.
So I can bring all my old programs into the future?
Exactly.
It's like a time machine for my software.
It is. That could be a lifesaver for people who rely on specific software
Yeah.
for work, school, personal projects.
I'm convinced. VirtualBox. More than just a developer tool.
Right.
It's valuable for anyone who uses a computer.
And I think the key takeaway here is understanding those principles behind VirtualBox. Virtualization, resource allocation. That really empowers you as a computer user. It's like knowing how your car works. You don't have to be a mechanic
Right.
to drive,
Yeah.
but knowing how it all works makes you a more confident and informed driver.
It's all about understanding our tech.
Right.
Taking control of our digital world.
Exactly.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive.
It does.
I think we went from understanding VirtualBox to its connection to the cloud
We did.
and how we can use it in our everyday lives.
It was quite a journey.
It was. But before we go, I want to leave you with one thought. Now that you've seen this world of virtualization, what will you do? What will you create? The possibilities are endless.
Go out and virtualize.
That's all for our VirtualBox deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into some fascinating ideas.